there, 90 miles for a year. And
Wow.
I just worked my butt off. And Troy, I noticed Troy was on vacation a lot, hanging with his family, never at work. And I'm like, what is this whole lifestyle that you're living? Patients for you, your business is slamming, but you're gone a lot. You're traveling a ton. And he's like, I'll teach it to you when you graduate.
Wow.
And on my graduation, he showed up, and he told me we're going to Las Vegas to celebrate graduation. And I thought we're going to celebrate, so I have to, like, get this approved with my wife and all this stuff. And she's like, no, you can go, Troy, go have a good time. And honestly, we went to Vegas, and we got there and sat on the floor of the Hard Rock Hotel, and we worked on our Oola for 3 days. We never went out. We never did anything that people do in Vegas. We literally worked with 3x5 note cards, and day one was, where are you in these 7 areas? Day 2 is where you want to go, and day 3 is how you're going to get there. And I went home for the first time in 1997 with a plan for my Oola life.
Wow, I love that story. So how did things change?
So I went back, and I actually started to implement what I learned. And I'm from a small town in North Dakota. I never set goals before. I maybe set, goals in sports, maybe for a test or something. I want to do good in a test. But I definitely didn't set goals in all 7 areas. I didn't have fitness, finance, family, field, career goals, fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. I didn't have any of those goals. I just had sports goals. And this is the first time I actually had goals in all 7 areas. And then we would get on the phone every 2 weeks, Troy and I, and he would make sure I was on track with my goals. I'd make sure he was on track with his.
Wow.
We met in the summer to readjust, which is very important, to readjust some goals. Some goals we hit early and we wanted to make bigger. Some goals weren't as important anymore. We wanted to, modify. And then at December of 1998, we got back together for the second time in Vegas. We compared everything we did, and then we planned 1999. And by 2001, 2002, I was fairly successful in all 7 areas. I had a,
Wow.
7-figure business. I was running marathons, working out, working on my faith, married. My 4th child was on the way, building a house. That's where I was in my life. Troy, at this exact same time, an opportunity came up to move overseas, and he decided he's going to move overseas. And we just lost touch with each other. We were really good friends. I was going to go overseas with him, but it didn't work out for where I was in my life, my career, and my family. And he moved overseas. I stayed. And I remember December of around 2001, 2002 coming, and this is when we would normally go work on our Oola. And I sat in my big house and with my kids and my cool cars, and I'm like, well, I don't need to do Oola anymore. I hit it. This is it. And we call it now, looking back, we call it the drift. And if you guys talked about my story a little bit before I got on, by 2008, 9, and 10, I was bankrupt, divorced, and living in a motel. So sometime between 2001 and 2008, all of that started to happen.
Wow. Wow, that's so powerful. You lost your Oola.
Yeah, I lost my Oola, and at the same time, so if we go back to 2000, probably around 2010, 2009, 2010, I called Troy for the first time in years. And it's not, how long-lost friends, they can call each other, it's no big deal. Like, hey, I haven't talked to you in years. How's it going? I saw Christmas cards. And I called him. He had moved back to the States. He was fully retired. He was 42. He was married 20-some years.
Wow.
He had 4 kids, 1 adopted daughter. He was running Ironman. He had 4 houses around the world, Thailand, Panama. He lived in Arizona in the winters, lived at his lake cabin where he is today in northern Minnesota. No cell service up there, by the way. And just this beautiful lake house. And he was fully retired, running Ironman, like truly living Oola. He had an orphanage start over in Thailand. I mean, he was living the Oola life, and I was living in a motel. And I reached out to him, and I said, dude, you're just never going to believe where my life is. And he said, all right. He said, here's the deal. He said, let's start working on getting your Oola back. And I told him at that time, I said, if I get my Oola back, we are going to share this with the world. And he said, that sounds amazing, but maybe you want to get out of a motel and get a car and get a job, and then we can talk about saving the world. And I'm like, yeah, let's start there. So that's actually how it all started. Was in 2010, that's where I started my journey back to my little life.
Wow, what a story. So do you think had you not gone through what you went through that you would be as appreciative of the life you lead now?
Not a chance. Like, no way. I think you go through those challenges for multiple reasons in your life. But I know every single day, and this is not an exaggeration, every single day, that the past of losing everything, going through a divorce, the pain of some of that stuff is constantly in my mind. And it's not in my mind of like, oh, I feel bad for myself at all, but it's definitely in my mind of a standpoint of really feeling grateful for every day. And that's a big part. It's really, you lose everything and you recover over a 7-8 year period. It's pretty hard to be kind of upset about a not so good day, you know, because you kind of say like, it puts everything into perspective. And that's the biggest lesson I learned from that, is putting everything into perspective and learning gratitude. That's just the most powerful, or one of the most powerful Oola accelerators, is if you wake up complaining and whining and irritated, it's really hard to see the beauties that are in front of you and take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you.
Exactly. You know, I lost everything in 2009. I was in real estate, and the market dumped. So I always, now when I look back, I'm so grateful for that, because when you come from a place of nothing, you look around at the somethings, and the somethings that matter are faith and friends, two of your Oolas, right?
Yeah.
And the rest comes back, but those two things kind of stay and get you through that lack. So I admire that so much, what you're doing, and thank you for spreading it. So now your life is all turned around. And do you guys sit down and write these things together, like the 21-day challenge? Did you write that together?
Oh, yeah. So going back to like our Oola, we go back and work on our stuff every December. Now we do an event called Oolapalooza, which we do with other people. But then right after Oolapalooza, Troy and I sit down and work on our goals for the next year. So like all of our goals, obviously, that's for 2018. We talk about them every couple weeks. We'll do the same process at his lake cabin in about a week and a half after the run through Michigan and Ohio. And we're going to be reviewing our 2018 goals, making sure we're on track and everything. But then writing stuff, we have a great team when it comes to like writing challenges and helping us out with some of that stuff. But we write the majority of that. Obviously with the books and stuff, we do all of that. But when it comes to challenges and Facebook posts and Instagram posts and all that, we have a team that helps us with some of that.
Thank goodness, because you'd be really, really swamped, right?
Yeah, our own lives will be out of Oola, big time.
Right. So what about...
There's about 1 million people following us on social media, so it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, that's so cool. And, you know, that says a lot for your message, that people want to hear what you're saying, and you say it in such a way that people are hearing it.
Yeah.
Because you're so real.
I think it's the simplicity of Oola that resonates.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right.
Because life has always come across as this really complex, you know, purpose and a complex book, 700-page books. And it's really, there's 7 areas of your life you need to balance and grow on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And you're going to have good days and bad days. But you need to look at these 7 areas. And there's going to be seasons where you're going to have to focus really hard on 1 or 2 areas. Like when you came out of 2009 and your real estate business went under, you really had to focus on your career and your money and get all that straightened out again. I had to do the same thing coming around 2009, 2010, when the market crashed and I lost everything. I had to really dig deep on that part of my life, but you can't stay stuck in that. You know, You have to start coming out of that, emerge out of the ashes 2 to 3 years later, and then start to look at your life again and say, okay, now that I'm coming through this, now how's my fitness? How's all these other areas of my life? And start to continue to work towards that balance. And then the simplicity of looking at, there's 7 key blockers that'll get in your way, like fear, laziness, anger, self-sabotage. And there's accelerators that get you there faster: gratitude, love, passion, wisdom, integrity. And it's just the simplicity of it. I think that's why it resonates with so many people.
Right. And it's such a gentle and yet poignant reminder I mean, that the list of the negative things that you need to snap out of are so so right on. And not a lot of words. So you're absolutely right. It's so simplistic and yet so vital.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So now, keep going with how you got involved with Young Living.
So around 2012, so about 2-3 years after I started my journey back to Oola, I was at Dr. Troy's lake cabin. Again, same place we're going here in about a week and a half. And I was at his lake cabin, and we were talking about my life. This was 2012. And he said, hey, you remember when you're at the bottom, your main goal was if this works for you, someday you want to share this with the world. And he said, are you ready to do that? And I honestly had no idea. Sometimes you have this why, but you don't know the what at all. So I had no idea how I was going to do this, how we were going to do this. And he said very clearly at the time, he goes, well, I'm fully retired, so I'm not coming out of retirement for anything. But I'll help you outline the process of Oola that we do in Vegas. And we sat down and we started to outline the process. 7 areas of life you need to balance and grow: fitness, finance, family, skills, faith, friends, and fun. Whenever we've missed a goal, it's because a blocker got in the way, like fear, guilt, self-sabotage, anger. And every time we were able to push through a blocker, it's because we were tapping into an accelerator, like love over self-sabotage, passion over fear, whatever it was. So we wrote out the 7 accelerators. And then the 3 simple steps to your Oola life, which are simply where are you today, where do you want to go, and how are you going to get there. So at the end of day 1, we kind of had this outline of Oola that we've been doing for years, but actually written down on paper for the first time. And then we did our thing. You know, we went tubing with the kids and hanging out at the lake and all that stuff that we always do. And then that night when we got back together and we started looking back at what we had, we started filling it in. We started talking about stories that we had lived in our life, like through these things. Remember that one time I overcame fear this way? Or remember that one time I really gave into guilt this way? And we started talking about that, and we started writing these stories down. And by day 3, we actually had pretty much 90% of that book done.
Wow, nice. Boy,
yeah.
that book
and
was
just
just
when we write
waiting.
a book, it takes us like a year with publishers and publicists and editors. And we wrote that first book in 3 days. It was great. And we put the book out there. We self-published it. And one of those books was read by a gal in Minnesota who gave it to a friend who loved the book. And she was in Young Living, and she bought the book for Gary Young for his birthday.
Wow.
And, yeah, we tracked it back. And Mary Young, Gary's wife, read it to him on a road trip up to Idaho. And he loved it. And he said, I want to contact the Oola guys. We need more Oola in our company.
Oh,
And
I
2
love
weeks later, we're at
it.
convention.
Wow, that is so cool. The universe is very, very compliant to your needs and wants.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, that's delightful. So did you come up with the blends, or did you just come up with the idea for the blends?
Neither. So basically, when we talked to Gary, I remember the meeting very clearly. I was sitting next to Gary. I actually went into corporate headquarters. Troy was at his place in Arizona on speakerphone. And it was real clear conversation. Our members need more Oola. On the bottom, they run into fear, and they're struggling to find balance, and they're struggling to grow. And then when they get to the top and they're making all this money, they struggle with balance because they are so sucked into work. They don't know how to balance their family life. So he said he wanted to create a balance and a grow essential oil. And then basically he wanted us to create the collateral material around it and do all of this in 3 weeks. And we did it. And 3 weeks later, we showed up. We had no idea who Young Living was, basically. It was a handshake deal. And there were thousands of bottles of these little balance oils and thousands of bottles of grow oils. And we had these packages made with DVDs and books and all that. I actually just posted one on my Instagram about a week ago. I had an old picture of the first kit ever made. And, yeah, we were at convention, and that was it. But it was all Gary's blends. He asked us, he goes, do you guys want input on the blends? And Troy said, I think balance should be like a pina colada and grow should be like a Red Bull. And then Gary said, "You clearly have no idea what essential oils are, so I'll take it from here." So that was it.